Danny Woodburn and Positive Benefits.
Have you seen positive benefits from this?
I think it was I think that in 2010, the GLAD report that came out in 2010 that talked about where we are on screen. It's the first time that there was a depiction of disability on screen in terms of statistics. So at the time, in network primetime TV, there were 6 characters with disability and only one represented on screen by a performer with disability. That was Robert David Hall in CSI. And so that report, along with this task force, was I think the spark that lit the fire. So fast forward 13 years, and this is where we're at. We're engaging even more directly, not so much with the legal teams of our employers, but with the actual employers themselves.
Bringing it back to yourself, have you been discriminated against or had assumptions against you because of your disability while on set?
Yeah, I mean, there's been assumptions. Yeah, I mean, I there's a couple of things. I took a job I was offered a job on a pilot, a series. And one of the things about the series in the pilot was that my character was supposed to sit in he was sort of an informant for the cops. And he was an otherworldly kind of character. So there was a lot of makeup involved. But the point of the joke was that he was supposed to sit in a child seat in the back of the cop car. And I objected to that. I just didn't like that idea of infantilizing my character. Even though he wasn't a real human, I still felt like there was going to be a connection to people with dwarfism and infantilizing them. So that was part of the agreement that I had verbally. I said I would not do that. But then on the day of the test, like the first screen test for this character, the prop guy came into the makeup trailer and said, what child seat do you want to use? And he showed me a bunch of child seats. And I said, well, we're not doing that. And he said, well, they just sent me over here to have you pick. And I said, well, tell them it's a mistake because I'm not sitting in the child seat. So then the producer came in and he said, the network is really interested in you sitting in the child seat. And I said, well, we talked about this. I'm not going to do that. And then he said, well, let me talk. And then he came back and he said, they're really into this and they want you to do it. And they said, if you don't do it, they're going to send you home. And I said, okay, send me home. So I called their bluff and they didn't send me home and I didn't sit in the child seat. So I think they understood that, from the get-go, that's just not how it's going to work. If you make an agreement with me, you stick to it. And if I find something to be offensive or discriminatory, I'm going to address it. And you're going to have to be okay with me saying no. But I've also been told, I was told there was a very, very prominent hospital show on in the 90s. And I had asked my agent to put me in for this doctor role. And they came back and they said, well, he would never be a doctor. The belief system was that someone like me could not be a doctor. I have met little people doctors. There's a little person doctor on a TV series, a reality TV series. One of the heads of orthopedics at Johns Hopkins is a man with achondroplasia. He's a form of dwarfism. So he's a surgeon. And so that prejudice around whether or not I could be legitimately seen as a doctor in the 90s has since been dismissed. But I didn't get an opportunity for that role because of that belief system. And then growing up, I had a neighbor kid tell me that I could never be a trucker. And I said, well, first of all, I don't want to be a trucker. Second of all, I could do whatever I set my mind to. I mean, there's be ways to, and he was explaining to me that the wheels are real big and I couldn't get my arms around them. I said, I'd figure it out, just a matter of adapting. Whatever it is, you adapt. And so we had this little back and forth when we were teenagers or whatever. And fast forward, 40 years, and I'm playing a truck driver. of a big 18-wheel rig, you know. So somebody suspended their disbelief enough to put me in the driver's seat.
For more information, visit theavaproject.org.